Formula One safety is written in moments where everything goes wrong at full speed. These are the 10 crashes that expose the danger and permanently changed how the sport protects its drivers. Let's dig in. 10. Mick Schumacher, Saudi Arabia, 2022. Mick Schumacher's crash in Saudi Arabia is one of those moments that looked far worse than it thankfully turned out to be. It happened during Q2 at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, right at turn 12, which is easily one of the fastest and most unforgiving sections of the track. Mick was pushing hard, trying to make it into Q3, when he lost control on the exit of the corner and went straight into the barrier at high speed. There was no room to save it, no runoff to slow him down, just a direct head-on impact that registered around 33 Gs. The session was immediately red flagged as debris littered the track, and what followed was a long, tense delay, while marshals cleared the wreckage and medical checks were carried out. Despite how violent the crash looked, Mick escaped without serious injury and was taken to hospital purely as a precaution. He was discharged the same day, reporting only soreness. The car, however, was beyond repair, ruling him out of the next race. 9. Max Verstappen, Monaco 2015. Max Verstappen's Monaco crash in 2015 feels different when you remember how young he was at the time. 17 years old, racing through the tight streets of Monaco like he owned them, chasing 10th place late in the race with the kind of confidence that only youth allows. It was lap 64, heading down into Saint-Devote, and Max was closing fast on Romain Grosjean's Lotus, maybe a little too fast for a track that offers zero forgiveness. Grosjean braked at his normal point, something the data later confirmed, but Max was already committed. The Toro Rosso slammed into the back of the Lotus and was launched straight into the barriers, and for a brief second it looked like one of those Monaco crashes that end very badly. Instead, Max climbed out on his own, completely unhurt. The race continued under a virtual safety car, the first time Formula One had ever used one. He got a penalty, a lesson, and a reminder that Monaco punishes impatience. 8. Carlos Sainz Jr., Russia 2015. During FP3 at Sochi, Carlos had just switched tire compounds, going from the grippier option tires to primes, and at the same time adjusted his brake bias more toward the rear. That combination came back to bite him almost immediately. As he hit the brakes, the rear locked, the car snapped sideways, and he clipped the left-hand wall before sliding straight under the barrier. From the outside, it looked terrifying, especially when the team lost radio contact and no one could immediately confirm he was okay. Carlos stayed conscious the whole time, talking to marshals while cranes were brought in to lift the barriers off him. It took a while to get him out, which only made the tension worse, but somehow he walked away without a single serious injury that by the time he reached the hospital, he was already talking about racing the next day. 7. Fernando Alonso, Australia, 2016. Fernando Alonso's crash in Australia in 2016 remains one of the most violent multi-impact incidents of the modern era. Speeds were still extremely high at the end of the DRS zone, and as Alonso attempted to position his car for the corner, his front right wheel made contact with the rear left of the Haas. The contact instantly destroyed the McLaren's suspension and sent the car veering toward the outside wall. But the crash did not end there. The car rebounded, slid across the grass, and entered the gravel trap already unstable. As the gravel dug into the left side of the car, it was launched into the air before landing heavily on the rear impact structure. Despite this sequence of violent hits, Alonso avoided life-threatening injuries, suffering a rib fracture, bruising, and knee pain. This crash occurred before the halo was introduced, and it became one of the strongest real-world arguments for why additional cockpit protection was necessary. 6. Marcus Ericsson, Italy, 2018. Marcus Ericsson was flying into Turn 1 at Monza, the fastest part of the fastest track on the calendar, over 350 kilometers per hour. The braking zone came up fast and everything should have been routine, but the DRS, the very system meant to give him an edge on the straights, did not close. The rear end snapped, the car fishtailed, and then it was gone. He hit the barrier violently. The first impact slammed the car with over 25 Gs, launching it into a violent barrel roll, twisting through the air in a display of destruction that felt impossible to survive. And yet, when the dust settled, Marcus climbed out, shaken certainly but unharmed. The C-37, on the other hand, was completely destroyed. Sauber had to rebuild overnight, and the Italian crowd erupted in awe. A mechanical failure had nearly turned into catastrophe, but somehow, against every expectation, survival won. 5. Romain Grosjean, Bahrain 2020. Romain Grosjean's crash in Bahrain in 2020 occurred on the very first lap at turn 3, right after the chicane. Grosjean's car clipped Daniil Kvyat's AlphaTauri, his right rear wheel connecting with Kvyat's left front, and in an instant, the Haas pitched head first into the barrier. The impact was brutal, a staggering 67 Gs, 11 times the force drivers normally feel under heavy braking. The car split in two, the survival cell wedged into the barrier, and fuel ignited immediately. Flames erupted around the cockpit. Grosjean was trapped for 28 seconds as fire raged around him, far longer than the usual 10-second evacuation drill. He had to climb around the barrier to free himself, hands and legs scorched in the process. Yet remarkably, he survived with only burns and no major structural injuries. This crash was more than a test of car safety, but a testament to human determination, survival instincts, and the cumulative advances in Formula One protection. 4. Niki Lauda, German Grand Prix 1976. The 1976 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring was supposed to be another race, but it quickly became the stuff of legend. Niki Lauda, despite protesting the track's dangers, was out on lap 2, pushing his Ferrari through a fast left-hander before Bergwerk. The track was slick and the speeds high, around 200 kilometers per hour, when suddenly the car slid out of control. One moment he was racing, the next he was slammed into the barrier and engulfed in flames. To worsen the situation, the onboard safety systems failed, leaving him alone in the inferno, but not for long. Fellow drivers rushed in, risking their own lives to pull him free. The injuries were horrific, including severe burns covering most of his body and lungs damaged from smoke. Yet somehow, he returned to racing weeks later, eventually winning 2 more world championships. This crash became a turning point for safety, proving just how much fire protection, emergency response, and cockpit design would need to improve. 3. Lando Norris, Belgium 2021. Just like the previous crash, rain hammered down on Spa-Francorchamps, blurring the track and filling every dip with standing water. Lando Norris, fastest through Q1 and Q2, pushed his car into the final qualifying segment, but the weather had other plans. Climbing Raidillon, the car suddenly lifted on a patch of aquaplaning water. Grip vanished instantly, the rear end sliding out of control. Moments later, the car slammed into the barriers and spun violently over 180 degrees, finally coming to rest on the side of the track. It was the kind of crash where danger felt unavoidable, yet the modern barriers held, and the medical team was there in seconds. Norris was shaken but unharmed, cleared to race after precautionary checks. The drama did not end there. Sebastian Vettel, trailing behind, slowed immediately, pulling alongside to confirm Norris was okay, exchanging a quiet moment of solidarity in the chaos. The session was red-flagged, the rain continuing to dominate the track, a reminder that even in the most advanced era of Formula One, nature can still decide who survives and who does not. 2. Jules Bianchi, Japan, 2014. This one sent chills down the spines of everyone who witnessed this tragic incident. The rain fell in sheets at Suzuka, turning the Dunlop curve into a mirror of water and danger. Visibility was almost non-existent, just 50 meters ahead, and the track had already claimed one victim, Adrian Sutil. The field slowed under double yellow flags, but nothing could prepare anyone for what was coming next. Jules Bianchi approached the corner on lap 43. Hydroplaning on the standing water, his Marussia shot sideways, unstoppable. At over 160 kilometers per hour, the car collided with the recovery vehicle. The impact sheared off the front right wheel and sent his head striking the underside of the crane through the cockpit opening. The force was enough to cause catastrophic brain injury in an instant. Medical crews rushed in, extracted him, and airlifted him to the hospital, but the damage was done. Despite months of care, he never regained consciousness, passing away 9 months later. It was a chilling moment for the F1 world, proving that the line between survival and tragedy sometimes disappears in a single, terrifying moment. 1. Ayrton Senna, San Marino, 1994. Imola in 1994 was already a place heavy with tension. The weekend had already claimed Roland Ratzenberger and Rubens Barrichello. Ayrton Senna, carrying the weight of those tragedies, led the race on lap 7. As he approached Tamburello, the flat-out left-hander, something gave way. Whether it was a steering column weld, a drop in tire pressure, or the car's own instability, the Williams failed to turn. At over 300 kilometers per hour, it shot straight across the runoff, becoming airborne briefly before slamming into the concrete wall at a shallow angle. A suspension arm broke off and pierced the survival cell, striking Senna's helmet. Medical teams responded immediately, but despite efforts and a rapid airlift, Senna did not survive. The world watched in horror as the sport's aura of invincibility shattered in an instant. His death stands as the ultimate reminder that even in a sport built on precision and control, the margin between life and death can vanish in a heartbeat. Which of these crashes struck you the most? Tell us in the comments section, we'd love to know. Thanks for watching to the end. Until next time, bye for now.